back to the Pineapple Party Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pineapple Party Podcast. My name is Jensen and I'm your host. And today we have a very special guest. As a matter of fact, he is such a special guest that I have to say very 3 times. He's the most charismatic, the most amazing, the most outgoing, the most charming, the handsomest, the sexiest, the most beautiful, the wonderful, and the always amazing Mr. Jensen Chua. Yup, I am the special guest today because today we have a very special episode where I am doing it solo. So today is a solo episode of the Pineapple Party Podcast. And this idea of recording a solo episode is brought to me by someone who's very important to me. So thank you so much. I'm truly grateful and honored to be sat here recording this episode. So basically what I want to do and my plan and idea with this solo episode is it acts as a kind of recap on the previous episodes that we've recorded. And I'm planning to do this more regularly and more often. Hopefully it becomes a thing where I reckon every 10 to 20 episodes we'll have like a special recap episode. But it could be something special. Maybe I have something really special that I want to share. Or maybe it's just like a very deep reflection on something that I feel a solo format would fit the most. But essentially the idea is it would also... the idea is, as cool as it is and as amazing as it is to have guests, I would like to also balance the podcast out with a few solo episodes sprinkled around here and there. Which brings us to the purpose of today's episode. We've recorded over 10 episodes now. We started back in late December. It is now approaching late May, and we've been very consistent, which I'm very proud of. So first and foremost, before we even get to the intricacies and the details and the reflection itself, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody, every single person who has been supporting the podcast, whether you are someone who shares the clips, whether you're someone we interviewed, whether you're someone who likes our posts, comments, who watches our videos, who watches our clips, all the way from, you start from a 1-minute clip all the way to like a 2-hour special podcast episode that we did. Thank you so much to everybody supporting. And whether you're just someone who knows about the podcast or someone who genuinely follows every episode, we are truly grateful and we are truly thankful and we are forever appreciative of your support and of your presence. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast. This is honestly a passion project where I think, the only other episode so far where I've been doing it by myself is the first one, where I shared why this podcast, what is the existence, like what is the justification for the existence of this podcast? Why is it necessary that the world has to have this Pineapple Party Podcast? And one of the very important things I've shared, which is still to this day, I say to this day like it's been here for 10 years, but to this day, it's still at the very core and the identity of this podcast is really to meet and actually sit down and have a long conversation, have a fulfilling conversation with people different people from different walks of life. Basically, the Pineapple Party Podcast purpose is to interact and to engage and to truly and deeply understand different people from different walks of life. And over this course of, this should be the 12th episode, I believe. So over the course of 11 episodes that we've published and uploaded to YouTube now, and we've made clips and everything, I can confidently say that we are very much so fulfilling this purpose and this core value that we hold very near and dear to our hearts here at the Pineapple Party podcast. And the direction that I want to take this episode in isn't necessarily, oh, let's pinpoint on exact things that we've learned over from episode 1 all the way till episode 11, which is the one right before this one. But more so, I would like to focus on the more general things that I've learned recording these podcast episodes. And it could generally be something that is directly inspired by the guest. It could be something that I'm learning as my own life progresses and blooms and, takes its path. But I just want to take this episode and take this time to share what I've learned over the course of, like I said, from end of December till now. We're approaching the end of May. Well, first, let me take a water break. Okay, I have to cover the logo because we're not sponsored. It showed anyways, god damn it. But, that could be a milestone. If we're doing a reflection for the future, that's definitely a milestone. I would like to have a sponsor, preferably before the 25th episode. So I'll give us another 13 episodes to go from here to get some sponsorship dough, if you get what I'm saying. But one of the things that I want to emphasize, one of the most important things that I think I've learned over the course of this period of time recording the podcast is gratitude. And it's recently that the importance of gratitude really shows itself. Like, oh, you gotta be grateful, dude. Whatever you do, you gotta be grateful. And I say this because, of course, everybody goes through hard times. And I'm currently going through challenges in my life too, and it's not like every day is easy. It's never going to be smooth sailing, and I think right now there's quite a lot that I'm juggling with, and there's quite a lot of things I'm trying to balance and figure out in my own life. So one thing that I think truly gives us root and really keeps us humbled and but also happy is gratitude. Because to skip all the redundance and to get straight to the point, like for me to be able to sit here in front of my laptop, which has a webcam, and I have my cute little indie musician setup of a mic, audio interface, and like the most basic setup even. For me to be able to sit here and just talk to my laptop and record it and have the internet, have the resources to allow me to upload this video of me just talking to YouTube for other people to watch and possibly and hopefully enjoy is a privilege. It is a blessing. And that's one of the most important things I've learned over the course recording this podcast. It's like the fact that I even have time to begin with, to just sit down and talk to someone I find incredibly interesting, to sit down and prepare the questions, to do the research. I have so much time because I allocate a lot of time into research. I allocate a lot of time into scripting the questions, and to preparing, like getting to know the guests, getting to know the questions that I'm going to ask. Is it appropriate? How can I word it better? And to refine it with every new episode. It takes a lot of time. The fact that I even have the time to be able to just sit down and do what I love, like take care and grow and build up this passion project that I have, is a privilege. And one more thing that I learned by talking to a lot of people is the importance of perspective. Because what I realized, and I think I drew the comparisons because from when I interview artists, because I've spoken to quite a few artists now, and looking at how they approach things like songwriting, things like what is their style, but then not only is it their style sonically? What is their style visually? How, like, how do they present themselves? What is their social media marketing like? And like when you talk to different artists and they give you all these different perspectives on the same things, you really learn like, oh wow, one thing can be seen as 100 different things by 100 different people. And that just goes to show like the importance of perspective. Put things into perspective. But then this is related to gratitude, which is why, like I said, it is the most important thing I've learned over the course of, recording all of these podcast episodes is gratitude. Be grateful. But this is multidimensional because first of all, I'm grateful to be even able to just sit down and record. Furthermore, I am also grateful that I can find interesting people to talk to. And then that furthermore builds into, I'm grateful that they said yes. I'm grateful that they're so kind with their time. I'm grateful that they're so giving with their time. And this seems a little bit messy, but it really is. Like, that's why I want to do these solo episodes, but not so often, because I'm not going with a script of questions or cue cards. I'm really just talking off the dome. Everything is, from the heart and just from the top of my head, right? Which is looking really fresh, by the way. But yeah, so going back to gratitude, I think that is the number one thing that I've learned over the course of, like I said, recording these podcast episodes. Because again, like when you think about it, right, putting things into perspective, as much as I am passionate, as much as I am very hardworking, when people look at stats, they can't say, oh, your podcast is famous. Your podcast got like 1 million views. You're Joe Rogan, right? They can't really say that. But the fact that when I reached out to people, that there are people, that are very well versed in their industry. They are professionals. They are veterans. They are masters of their craft. There are people who've been doing it longer, like way longer than I have. And they're still so incredibly kind with their time and so giving and so willing to share. Like, I'm touched by that, It's crazy. It's amazing. The fact that I'm just sat here recording, like screen recording a Zoom call, and they sit there so patiently and so willingly and so incredibly giving with their time and their expertise. Because if you deep it, it's a lot. It is a lot. Expertise is something that really takes time to refine, because it is one thing to have done something once or twice and you kind of can guess it, eyeball it a little bit, but it is another thing to really master the art of whatever you do itself. I think there's like the whole 10,000 hours kind of theory, but I've spoken to people who are very well versed and incredibly masterful at the things that they do, and they just sit there and they share the secrets, they share their knowledge that they have earned the hard way with me, simply because I asked if they could sit down with us and talk about their craft. So when I say I feel incredibly grateful, I really mean it in all aspects, and there are many different dimensions to it. I'm not sure if dimension is the right word, but there are many layers to it. Because there's the layer of, I'm just grateful that I get to do this in the first place. Then if you build it up, I'm grateful that people are willing to sit down with me. Then I'm grateful that they're willing to share their time with me. Then I'm grateful that they're willing to share their expertise with me. And then so from the process of A to Z, there is not one step where I'm not grateful. From the conception of the idea of the podcast itself, I'm grateful, to the final product, to making the clips, to making social media content, to the people who receive the clips, to the people who like and comment and share the clips and the social media content. I am grateful. Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of people um, up to now, and it's phenomenal. Like the guests that I've spoken to, it's crazy. You know, I've learned about medical bioscience. I've learned about aviation. I've learned about music production. I've learned about songwriting. You know, I've learned about, there is just simply so much. I've learned about radio. Like, I've learned about economics. You know, so reflecting back on the episodes that I've done, it's like, wow, man's been doing a lot. um, okay, I need. Okay, this is the thing I'm realizing about solo episodes is you need a lot of water because I'm the only one talking here. So that's my thoughts on gratitude. Of course, it is gonna keep developing, and I know it's quite messy. So this is supposed to be kind of conversational. So I hope if you guys play this episode, you know, you're playing it in the background while you're folding clothes, you're washing dishes, you're cleaning the house, you're at the gym, you're driving home from work, whatever it is. I hope it plays out to be more conversational than a structured video essay, because that is never what I want this podcast to be. But as of now, that is my thoughts on gratitude. I'm grateful for everything and anything and everything in my life. And this is what I want to talk about as well. I'm grateful for everything in my life, whether they are blessings or lessons. I like that. Blessings and lessons. Lessons and blessings. My inner rapper loves that very much. But I personally think that there really, of I personally think that there isn't much of a distinction between a blessing and a lesson. As a matter of fact, I think a lesson is a blessing. So if you are to Venn diagram it or whatever, like try to mathematically display it, the lesson would be a subset of blessings. And I know a lot of people might be opposed to this idea because, you know, people always say, right, people come and go into your life. Whether they are a blessing or a lesson is up to you to decide. But I just think a lesson is a blessing, because I personally believe that a blessing does not necessarily mean and does not necessarily only make you feel happy. Like a blessing doesn't, just because, how do I put this? I think I'm overcomplicating it. I'm thinking out loud right now. But a blessing doesn't just have to be something that makes you happy. I think a lesson that teaches you something that inspires growth in you is a blessing, because it makes you a better person. It makes you a more complete person. And that's why I want to talk about perspective as well, which I briefly raised when I was talking about gratitude. But I hope that I can communicate how they're all linked, because I'm just kind of talking out loud. And again, when I reflect, it's really like me thinking, processing, but I'm talking as I'm processing too. So that's why I said I want this to be conversational. I want this to kind of flow and be a little bit messy, and maybe over time we can refine it, right? Instead of like scripting every little thing and making it very video essay, which I'm nothing against. It's just I don't think that's what the Pineapple Party podcast is as of now. But perspective is so incredibly important because of, well, first of all, because of many reasons. But even if you want to take it as shallow as it possibly can be, let's say, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say I've been doing Muay Thai for the past 2-3 months. Let's say I go to Muay Thai and then I'm late as always, and I have to do 50 burpees. So let's say I do my 50 burpees, but throughout I'm like, man, like this sucks. Why do I have to do this? So even if you have zero gratitude for the fact that you have to do burpees, if you can take it as shallow as I'm doing burpees, which equals exercise, which equals makes me look good. Even if that's the sole reason, that's a plus. Even if your only reason for working out, for example, is so you can look better. Like hell, that's a pretty good reason. That's a pretty good reason. So it's your perspective on things. Like even if I am to like see it in the least. So even if I am to see something in the smallest and the least worthwhile form, it's still something. And that ties into gratitude. Because just like how if we can see things, if we can learn to see things in a way that is productive and inspires growth for us, I think if we can learn to be grateful for things, then that's a plus. Like being grateful for every little thing. If you can celebrate every little thing in your life, then everything becomes easier. The sorrow, the hurt, the loss, the grieving, the pain becomes lesser, and the wins, the celebrations, the laughter, the smiles, the sparkle in your eye, like everything becomes brighter. So it all depends on perspective. Because to simplify it, if I wake up every day thinking, oh man, today's gonna suck, man. Oh man, I'm gonna today's bleak. I don't want to do today. Then it doesn't matter if I have $100 million, 100 yachts, 100 sugar babies. Okay, although that might cause you to feel like every day is bleak. 100 cars. You can have everything you ever want from life, and you'll still feel terrible. And perspective ties into gratitude that way, because if you can be grateful for the little things in your life, then like I said, everything becomes easier. Because that's when you put things into perspective. And that's one thing that I've learned recording this podcast is let's put things into perspective. Let's really zoom out and see objectively where I'm at. Because the way I'm seeing it, I'm a university student. I get to study at a prestigious university. I have all the access in the world to education, to knowledge, to learning new things, to picking up new skills. I can do the things that I love. I have the time, I have the resources, I have the luxury of being able to sit down and record a podcast. I have the luxury of coming home and say, hey, I want to record a new song, boot up the software, the DAW, get my mic ready, and I can record a new song. I have all these resources and I have the access to be able to do what I want and what I love in life. So that just put things into perspective, And whether you're going through a tough time in your life, or whether, like myself, I'm currently juggling many things right now, right? Because I'm a clown. No, I'm joking. I am joking. But I am juggling a few responsibilities right now. And I'm dealing with my own personal things, personal matters. But when I put things into perspective, it really reminds me to be grateful. And even when things suck, even when you feel like you can't get out of bed, even when you feel like, oh man, I gotta go to school, oh man, I gotta show up to practice, oh man, I gotta deal with this, even if you're feeling lonely, even if you feel like you have no one to reach out to, if you can put things into perspective. I'm not saying it'll cure your problems. That is never the case. Your problems will not magically just go away. But I personally believe that if we can put things into perspective, it makes the sweeter things even sweeter. It makes the sweet things even sweeter. and it makes the painful things less painful. Ultimately, if we don't know how to put things into perspective, right? You could be on top of the world, but you still feel like you're stuck in the most low, the lowest of the low. So yeah, that is what I learned and what I reflected. It is a very messy episode, I admit, but I am just truly grateful that we got to sit down and talk about this, because regardless of the challenges that I'm going through with life right now, I am forever grateful for every single opportunity, and the fact that in those challenges I can find opportunity, because ultimately we must be able to make something out of nothing. So that is it for this episode. This is episode 12. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's more conversational, and it's more it's more so of a video journal than an essay, I think. Of course, this is a podcast, but I'm also kind of just reflecting on my own thoughts as we go on. But this has been the Pineapple Party Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have been following along. Like, share, subscribe, all that. You guys know what to do. I'll be dropping my socials this time, my links this time, because I am both the host and the special guest for today. It's been me. My name is Jensen. Ooh, big news. I will be performing one of my biggest shows ever at Genting Highlands on the 1st of June. So please follow my Instagram for more news and updates. I'll be dropping new music. I'm balancing quite a lot of things right now. I'm kind of struggling with it, but I'm cool as all. I don't care. I'm trying not to cuss on this show. I'm trying not to cuss on this podcast. But we're balancing things. We're figuring things out. And more importantly, we are grateful, and we are trying to put things into perspective. So thank you so much for tuning in. Look out for my show 1st of June at Ayu Awana Genting Highlands. Follow my Instagram for more details and updates. And that should be it. Thank you guys. Shaka's out.